Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining AIM webinars. AIM is a weekly webinar series designed for showcasing adaptive innovations in manufacturing by Fusion 360 users in India. These webinars brings community interactions, celebrating the course of design, innovation, and collaboration. My name is Varun Heta, and I work as a Fusion 360 community manager at Autodesk. I'll be your host for the entire AIM webinar series. All right, so as you know, today's topic is formulated product design. And we have our guest with us today, Abhit Kumar. He's the co-founder for Social Hardware. He will walk you through the framework to keep the product design and processes well in line with quality and regulatory requirements. We'll also discuss how a smoother integration of data and process speeds up the transfer of the final designs to mainstream manufacturing. Hi, Abhit. Welcome to today's webinar. We are so glad to have you with us. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. So glad to be here as well. Good afternoon to all the panelists, to all the participants joining us as well. I think it's continuously growing as well at the same time. So I think we have to wait a bit, but yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity and thank you all for coming to this particular webinar and coming to this particular I would say webinar about formulated product designing. And I hope I can walk you through our journey at Social Hardware, what we have done, and maybe you can get something out of it. So as I said, as Varun has explained as well, my name is Abhit and I'm the co-founder of Social Hardware, a company named Social Hardware. And I will be talking about how we can actually develop a cost-effective product, and we can design and develop a cost-effective product and engineer it under an appropriate guidelines for the users that require that particular product. And I'm going to share my experience about how we did it at Social Hardware, and I'll share my, it's been 5 years since Social Hardware started, and we started in a very different model of how the development of a product happens in the social impact space and how you can develop that particular product. And we have learned a lot, and I'm hoping to talk about it more and share that journey with you as well. So what will be the key takeaway points about this particular presentation that I'm going to talk about? Firstly, as you know, it's completely about a formulated product design. So we'll take bits and pieces and how to combine those bits and pieces and develop a particular product is what I'm going to talk about. So starting with the problem statement about a product, which is basically very important to start with. What is exactly the problem that you're trying to solve? And that is what Social Hardware does. We basically partner with number of non-profit organizations or impact organizations and further on understand the problem that we need to solve and identify those problems and provide a solution for that in a very frugally innovative way. So that's where we come in, and in terms of solving those problem statements. Once that problem is there, where exactly that problem is, that is the demographic part of it. Where exactly the problem is and for whom exactly we need the solution. So with the first product that we started was prosthetics. So the problem was to provide an upper lip prosthetic. That was the first part of our journey in 2016. And we identified the demographic, which was basically a tier 2 and below users or people who are either farmers, industrialist workers who might have lost their arms in some sort of casualty. And that was our demographic. So problem and a demographic where that problem is something very important to kickstart your journey about a concept or a design process. And then once you have understood the problem and a demographic, you come to the concept part of it. Like, what is the need of those particular user and how you're going to develop a concept around it. What sort of a product you want to develop, whether that product exists in the market or not. So that concept is basically including, and it's an umbrella actually, which includes your research and understanding about the particular problem and then coming out with a solution. That is where the concept comes into play. Now you have an understanding about the blueprint of the concept or the problem and the demographic, then you come on to the design part of it, which is how will we design it using the concept that we have understood, the research material, the whatever the data we have absorbed, how will we design it? What are the tools that is required for designing it? What is the data set that is required particularly for designing it? Pros and cons and all those concepts coming together and relaying it to a design process. That is where the design process happens. And then comes into the play is the regulation part. Now, regulation is a very hand-in-hand thing with the design process, which is generally ignored in a particular space of a hobbyist or a designer or an engineer, or even with startups in the early stages or companies in the early stages, because there's an urgency of a design, proof of concept, prototype, and simple implementation. But that is not the case that needs to happen. That is where the regulation mechanism comes into play while you're designing. So you need to understand what sort of regulation or what sort of filters or compliances that is required in order to design the product, whether a particular certification is required, whether a particular standard is required, because those are the important aspects that you need to adhere to before you even get into the designing process, because that will smoothen out your process when you are at the end stage of manufacturing or implementation, because then you can go ahead and further on approve the design that you have. And this is a very important mechanism that needs to be understood from design to regulation. So if you are adhering to the regulation mechanism, your manufacturing will become much more easier, because then you have an understanding about what sort of a product that you need to manufacture, what sort of design that is there that needs to be manufactured, and all those, and under what regulation, what sort of an ISO certificate is required, a BSI standard, and so on and so on. So these are the certain things and minor details which generally an individual or a company misses out while going through the process of a formulated product design, which is very important and key in order to develop a sufficient and a suitable product which has I would say, an implementational aspect in the commercial sector, even if it is for a social impact space. And that is what we have been doing. And then once you've manufactured it as per the guidelines, then the implementation happens, where you can implement the product in the demographic and as per the problem statement. So if you see the loop where you started from a problem statement, you have ended up with an implementation with a solution adhering to the manufacturing and other regulation mechanism, and the design is perfect and can be implemented in the market. So that's the sort of cycle that we need to talk about. Coming back to what basically we do, Social Hardware, we are a Bangalore-based tech company developing technological solutions for non-profit and impact organizations across the country. So we have partnered with more than 7 to 8 non-profit organizations across the country who are working either in the grassroots level or a rural level or urban level in different states of livelihood, education, health, assistive devices, and so on. And what we are doing is we are working with them closely in order to understand and identify the problem and come up with an innovative solution. And that has helped us in terms of increasing our portfolio of the products and the innovative aspects of the product. So we are a for-profit company developing an impact-based product in the commercial market, but for that particular social impact, in that particular social impact. That's what we are focused on now. And our basic vision is obviously to completely focus ourselves into social innovation aspect, because it's a market that is sort of not fully covered in a proper manner. And that is where using our understanding and engineering and design aspect, we can help that social innovation aspect in partnership with the non-profits or the organizations that we are working with. Social Hardware, we've been very much an advocate of a remote collaboration model. We generally don't have a team sitting in Bangalore in itself, and we focus on picking up a particular skill set for a particular project from across the globe. So we have designers or engineers either in LA, in Cairo, in Deal, UK, US, Europe, and we try to partner with people with the strongest skill set for that particular project and work under that remote collaboration model, which we actually started promoting before the COVID pandemic as well. And that is what we have thought about it. And it's something that has worked well with us in terms of keeping the company lean and much more focused about the development aspect of it. The project that we have developed with the non-profit organization or the impact organization has allowed us to directly and indirectly impact more than 100 lives. And that is the story that we have around the company Social Hardware that's there, and how we've been working with the non-profits and organizations to create a product development cycle, design cycle with these particular partners and implementing at those particular demographics and getting and generating results for the same. So starting with the first product that we had was the Avocado Risk Connector. Is one of the products if you search social hardware and Avocado Risk Connector, you'll get plenty of an idea about what exactly it is. And I'm going to go with the same flow what I talked about in terms of key topics, which is basically your problem statement, demographics, concepts, design solutions, guidelines, and implementation. What was the problem we were trying to solve with this Avocado Risk Connector? The problem was that even there was prosthetics existing or available in the market, either it's a dummy prosthetic or electric prosthetic, even if you have developed a Bluetooth enabled prosthetic at the same time, but certain people belonging from a rural area won't use it because that doesn't solve their workability problems, because many prosthetics that is there in the environment doesn't have enough gripping capacity for it to hold even a hammer or a particular tool for a farmer to do a plowing work or an industrial worker to do a normal artisan hammering work. So that is a problem that was there and we had to solve it. So at the same time, the demographic, as I mentioned, people who are either using these dummy prosthetics or electronic prosthetics or even no prosthetic as well, but required a solution that solves their, I would say, employment-based activities or farming, industrial activities, or any other activities which require crude working environment or crude working surfaces or crude product to withstand those sort of environments. So that was a solution that we came up with, which is called an Avocado Risk Connector, which we designed to be compatible with the existing lines of prosthetics, which was basically the prosthetics that was there in the existing prosthetic supply chain market of the country. And we didn't try to create something different or the branch of the prosthetic industry, but try to create a product which can be implemented in the existing cycle. So no replacement of anything, no reiterating of anything, just a simple installation into your existing product of this particular risk connector would enable a user, a farmer who has a particular electronic based prosthetic can simply attach this risk connector and can conduct a particular farming based activities and so on and so on. So that's a sort of solution or a concept through which we came up to a design solution, and that which further got implemented. And then once we were doing the design part of it, we had to understand if we are providing it to the ministry or to a verified P&O channel, we had to go through multiple channels of guidelines, which is like the field approvals, the approvals through orthopedics or the ortho and prosthetic technicians, the BSI approvals, and the Rehabilitation Council of India, the ISO approvals, and all those. It sounds a lot, but it is a very crucial and an important aspect if you're trying to implement a product which is to be used with the user, and that needs to go ahead, because a user will accept anything that you provide because he or she is unable to do a certain activity. So they'll be happy to accept it. But that is not the way a process works. It needs to go through a channel of filtering and channel of supervision in order to actually comply to the product, that this product is suitable enough for a user. You must have seen the phones and all these things. They're also certified in a various manners because that allows the minimization of liability. And that is very important for a person or for a product developer or a designer, for an engineer who's planning to develop a product, to minimize the liability of the product that you are developing and while you're implementing it in the market. So that is where the guideline part is something that you cannot ignore. And then we moved ahead in terms of delivering that product to the approved P&O houses, to the social justice and the empowerment ministry, and other impact-based organizations to go ahead. And yeah, so that's the process that we adhere to. Basically, we researched the product about what exactly the problem is. We did our researching. We did a deep dive about what sort of a solution that needs to come up. We did our concept design. We then gave it to a manufacturer to do a quick proof of concept, understand what are the feedbacks that came from the manufacturer, went back again to the research model, went back again in terms of that how to improve the concept, and then again give it until and unless we got a final approval that this basically product is good enough to be manufactured or good enough to be fabricated. And that's how we went up to the fabrication model. Now that's a very interesting aspect, that we had this model and it was implementable to products of various genres. So not only for assisted devices, for product that is developed in clean energy, for product that is developed in healthcare, and so on and so on. A certain process, this process that's mentioned here is something that got implemented very constantly in all the different products or the projects that we were working on. So this is something called a design to implementation process. We came up with a concept using a basic inspiration of an avocado. We went ahead and did a concept model of an avocado risk connector. We used the process of generative design in order to reduce the mass and material to reduce the weight of the concept model that we developed. And from there, we spoke to the manufacturer, got the feedback, made it more human and design and manufacturing friendly, and came up with a 96-gram end product model. And that led to implementation onto the user. So that is the flow that I'm talking about from when I talk about a design to implementation procedure, where you have an inspiration to a concept, to a design, manufacturer review, final end product, and implementation. It's a very simple process, but there are small key takeaways from these which needs to be followed that will enable you to an ease of process in terms of your product design and development. Then we move ahead to another project of ours, basically, which is called a livelihood card. The problem that we were trying to solve here was people with locomotor disability were not being employed enough. In fact, the average rate of employment for them is 0.54%. But the government was providing them these modified two-wheeler vehicles constantly every quarter, and around 2,000 to 3,000 vehicles are provided. But what should a person do with that particular vehicle if there is no sort of employment for that particular person? How it needs to be used. So how to introduce a self-employment aspect was the problem statement that we want to solve. And the demographic act was the people with locomotor disabilities, which is a major chunk in terms of disabilities. If you're talking about the whole disability organization or disability community, if I'm talking about. So what was the solution we come up with? We came up with a solution which is basically a modular cart, which is suitable enough to be attached to these vehicles driven by these people with disabilities. And these vehicles, which is further on powered using solar energy, which they can drive around the city and provide on-spot services. And on-spot services can be either a portable Wi-Fi hotspot, a charging station for a mobile Yulu bike, for on-spot email and scan services, and so on and so on. And create a sort of an aggregator model, just like Ola and Uber, where a user can, where a common person, if anywhere, wants to get their mobile or wants to get their vehicle charged, can simply get on an app and get and call up the person, and they can drive around the city and provide that sort of service. So that is the sort of solution we came into it, which further on relayed as a self-employment aspect, empowerment aspect, at the same time sustainability in income aspect. So that allowed us to bypass to reduce the burden on the government of providing employment, but at the same time utilizing the vehicles that were existing already with these people with disabilities. And at the same time, while we were doing this, the whole solution from design solution to like the manufacturing part, we were adhering to the guidelines that were either set up by the RTOs or by the ARAIs, the vehicle associations, and what are the speed limit that needs to be adhered to, what are the weight balance ratio that needs to be created. All these aspects were implemented before we even thought about designing the product. So that is where the concept comes into play. And then further on, going on to the implementation part. Now, moving on to the same process, we had the same concept process. However, in terms of manufacturers, this time rather than having a conventional manufacturer, we went to a garage in order to check with the concept design that we have done. So researching about the product, taking proper vehicle measurements, coming up with a CAD model in Fusion 360, developing that concept model and giving it to a conventional orthodox garage and showing them this is the way to go ahead in terms of fabrication, and then doing a very orthodox, frugally innovative start, which can further be used as an end product. It's something that we opted for this time rather than going for a conventional manufacturers with a proper CNC or a mild steel setup. We thought of why not speak or encourage these local garages to come into the play and work out in this sort of a way where they can also participate in the development that we are doing. and which has been beneficial for us economically, the process-wise, and we also feel that there is a sort of impact that we are creating in a way where we are trying to grow these smaller garages into a way forward to go ahead with the fabrication part. So that's how we went ahead with this livelihood card. Same design to implementation process. We took the vehicle measurements, we took the stabilizers, the two separate tires, and the measurements between it. We went ahead with the vehicle design. We designed a stabilizer. We measured the card. We conducted our electrical framework, which basically involves your setting up an electrical infrastructure so that a 200 watt of solar panel is being able to fit onto top of the card, and accordingly went ahead and designed the card, gave it to the garage guy, and we got the proof of concept and a prototype initially done, which was very much closer to the end product that we finally created. So that's a process that allowed us to be frugally innovative, cost effective, and went through the same sort of a flow that what I'm talking about, from research to fabrication. So the basic idea is not to just go ahead with a conventional design, conventional manufacture sometimes. Maybe just try to go ahead and develop an off-the-shelf concept model with the local garages, speak to them. They understand more than a lot of us know about. So that would enable us to get a quick understanding about how to develop a product. Similarly, we went ahead with another product called a solar sterilizer, where we were trying to avoid the reuse of smaller non-invasive medical equipment, basically by people in the rural public healthcare centers, which was creating a spread of diseases, where your scissors or tubes or clamps were either just simply being washed and not sterilized while using it. And why was this happening? Because of lack of autoclave setup in the public healthcare centers in the rural districts, and that is because of lack of electricity. So we had a problem statement how to bypass that lack of the lack of electricity that is there in the rural public healthcare centers, and develop a product which is portable and suitable enough that can be kept inside a public healthcare center and create and provide a solution of sterilization of these smaller equipment. So we came up with a solution which is basically inspired by a top-loading semi-automatic washing machine. We sometimes not realize, if you've noticed a pattern for us, even for the Avocado wrist connector, we took an inspiration from an Avocado. Even for this solar sterilizer, we took an inspiration from a top-loading washing machine. So like sometimes you have to look around in order to develop a product which can be commercially viable. So that is what we have done for most of the projects that we are developing. So yeah, developing a solar sterilizer with an inspiration of a top-loading a washing machine, which can be operated by a person with limited education. So that and which is obviously solar energy, so like solar powered basically, to create a proper sustainability pact. Again, with the more complex medical product comes more complex in terms of the guidelines and the approvals that come into play. So you have the ICMR approval, the BSI approval, the Drugs Control Board approval, ISO certification, and so on and so on. So yeah, I mean, it sounds exhausting, but this is a necessity if you are even an individual trying to develop a product for a commercial market or for an implementation. You can't just get away from developing a product, simply designing, printing, and then setting it up in a space and then using it up. But that's a process that needs to be followed. There's a process that needs to be followed, which is something that we are losing within our designing and engineering community. What I have noticed personally, where we are too eager to implement the designs that we are doing and gain that sort of attraction in the market. But that is where we sometimes the whole play go into wrong, even though if you receive an initial applause, those viral videos and all those, but if the guidelines or the design compliances are not met, that's where basically your loss will happen if you're looking at a bigger picture. And then at the same time, once your problem statement, demographic, design solution, guideline, and implementation, which is where we further on went ahead in installation of these solar sterilizers at public healthcare centers. Now, these are all these products and the projects that we are developing. We are developing with partnered non-profit organizations, either from the clean energy group, either from the health group, either from the assisted device group. We have partnered with multiple manufacturers who are either sufficient or good enough in subtractive manufacturing, additive manufacturing. We have partnered with garages. So that sort of a collaborative model, if you have, is something that can enable you to further on develop a good cycle of product. Then, yeah, if you notice, This time, the model it's a little bit different, but the base of that flow will be same. You have the concept design that is merged with your, so a concept design team or a design team were collaborating with the engineering team in order to have an ECAD MCAD collaboration while designing the product. And that is where the collaboration needs to happen in order to combine and see how the two products or how the two designs are working together. For the electronic design, you have an importance of PCB testing, which is, if good enough, that can go ahead with the fabrication. Same goes with the concept design. If the manufacturer approves, that's great. You manufacture those together and then do a merge test. So a collaborative model, when required, can be participated, and not necessarily you need to build a team around within the city, but you can do a similar remote collaboration model by identifying individuals across the globe by just cold messaging someone, talking about their design and how they can partner with you. And that's how you can actually go ahead and create a proper flow of product development, which is very much possibility for the near future as well, the remote collaboration. Guidelines, as I've been very, very adamant and very focused about the guidelines part of it, it is very important. Guidelines is very important. Like, you have three phases of those guidelines, which is a pre-product guideline, a mid-product guideline, and a post-product guideline. If I talk about pre-product guidelines, it's basically an understanding as an individual about the product that you're about to design and develop. What is the array of certifications or compliances that product will be requiring? Now, according to those arrays and research, and that comes in your research and measurement, if you've noticed the model. So you need to understand and research the amount of guidelines and understandings that you need to have for developing of the product. You go ahead with these understandings and further on develop the design, go ahead with the concept design, and then you come into the mid-product guidelines to check whether you are adhering to the compliances that is actually that you've looked up to. And then comes in the post-product guidelines, where you then focus those the products that you've developed into the governing councils or the industrial bodies, where you verify the design of the product and gain those particular certification and implement the product. Now, if you're doing a product even as an open source project and giving it for free of cost, I think it's an individual's job in order to adhere to those guidelines in order to develop a product. Because we have to understand as designers or engineers that we are creating a product for a user who requires that particular product. Now, they would be happy to accept it, but it's our responsibility to have those products tested, verified, adhere to the supervision, and then provide it, so that we reduce the liability from our side and make the product more certified and available and viable enough for the users to use it. So that's what the whole guideline comes into play. And that's basically what I had with me today. And thank you all for listening and understanding, and I hope it's been useful for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Abhit, for the excellent presentation. I love the highlights you mentioned about the D2I process and all the formulated design process. Really appreciate that. So moving on, we are about to be on time. We also have Anand Pujari with us. He is the education manager at Autodesk, and he's going to walk you through about certain programs that are currently being run by Autodesk to support you with this certification and to get started with Fusion 360. Hi, Anand. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Varun. Thanks for that intro. All right. Thanks, Abhi, for that wonderful presentation. I mean, it was good to see that different kinds of approaches. I mean, from your conceptual design till fabrication, and how do you approach to a problem statement and execute it. So the guidelines were very, very important, as you mentioned. So what I intended to talk about is how Autodesk is helping the education community in terms of design and innovation and make. I think many of you are already aware of what Autodesk education program is all about, but I'm going to quickly run you through because you will understand what we are doing in terms of an education community at Autodesk, and then how we are benefiting the institutes as well as the faculty members and the students in adopting the newer technologies so that they are ready for the industry. So I'm an education account manager with Autodesk. I think a couple of them might know me. I'm with Autodesk for the last 18 plus years, working with different departments. Now in education, close to 3 years, I am kind of helping the student community so that they understand what is required by the industry so that they upskill themselves and be ready for the industry. To start with, I mean, these are the 4 industry sectors that we normally Autodesk cater to. Many of you might have already seen these slides. I mean, be it the manufacturing sector, be it the industry and construction structure, I mean, architecture industry, the construction industry, and the animation industry. So Autodesk is pioneer in providing technologies to work with in all these industry sector areas. So there were a couple of questions I could see in the chat that I'm in the 3rd semester, I'm in the 4th semester, what's my career path, what's my role, and kind of thing. So I'll talk about how you can build your career path, but you can concentrate on these are the 4 industry sectors. Now you need to understand in which profile or in which industry that I would like to pursue my career and act accordingly. Just to highlight that Autodesk is like 37 plus years of experience across the industry sectors. We are 37-year plus old company, very matured enough to understand the needs and requirements of the industry. So that's where we want to help our commercial customers as well as the education customers. So education customers are the innovators, are the future buds to these commercial customers. Now, how Autodesk supports the education community. I mean, these are the 4 sector areas that Autodesk helps the education community, be it training and professional development. I mean, we invest in your success. I mean, bringing your skills, making your skills adaptable to the industry, and make your career development, which is required by the industry. And the second part is, I think Autodesk is the only company which provides all its product portfolios, major of its product portfolios free to the any education community. I mean, if you're an educator, if you're eligible for that, then you certainly are entitled to use Autodesk products free to your institutes, to your personal use. I mean, as a personal educator on your personal computers and on your labs as well. I mean, this is a way big move that Autodesk taken 10 years back, because you don't have to go for a pirated version or a 500 copy or a 1000 copy CD. You are legally obliged to use Autodesk products for your work. I mean, that's the good benefit, that you don't have to worry about it. So that's the other part. Then there's a teaching and learning content. And I have told many times in my speeches that there's a design academy content, which is closely developed in association with the industry requirements. All the courses that are available under the design academy, I mean, we have around 700 hours of content is available, 750 hours of content is available on the design academy, which will help you to work seamlessly. It's a step-by-step guides, video guides, data sets, which will help you to upskill quickly, so that you don't have to follow the traditional approach of becoming absent. I mean, as a layman, if you have not seen Fusion at all, with these courses, you can easily start working with Fusion as well. I mean, as Varun mentioned, that Autodesk is looking at the role-based credentials. I mean, the role-based skills. I mean, somebody wants to really upskill himself into the CNC manufacturing unit. Somebody wants to go for really generative design expert. So those kinds of skill sets are being worked out. So those kinds of certifications are being worked out at Autodesk. So soon you will be able to see those kinds of certifications being rolled out. I mean, this definitely applies to the questions that many were asking, that what is my career path? I mean, I'll tell you about a couple of slides where you'll change your career. I mean, you change your skill sets according to these certifications, so which will definitely fit you into specific roles in the industry. So these are the different ways that Autodesk education community is trying to help both the institutes as well as the educators and student community. Right. So let's quickly look at how the traditional, I mean, the current curriculum education sector is having the courses or the curriculum that at the education level, and what is the industry requirement. I mean, if you look at the left-hand side of the things, I mean, these are the standard things. We have CAD/CAM design, CAD/CAM drafting, and then CAD/CAM labs. We have materials, mechanics, manufacturing, which are the curriculum as of now. But if you look at for the last 50 years, I don't think so we have a major change in terms of our education curriculum aspects. But if you look on the right hand side, I mean, what the industry is expecting us to develop or provide the students, so that when they're being hired by the industry, they don't have to train them. I mean, at least with the basic knowledge of like advanced technologies like generative design or embedded electronics or design for manufacturing, or additive manufacturing. If they have the fair amount of knowledge with respect to this, it becomes easy for the industries to quickly adopt them and make them very productive at an early stage itself. So that's a big boon for the industry. So what Autodesk is trying to build is to develop content, to develop the programs related to the industry needs, and working with most of the institutes directly, indirectly, and with through our partners to upskill the needs or the skill sets required by the industry. That's the biggest change that we are working towards, so which will definitely help you in building your career path. I mean, as we look at that, the industry 4.0, I mean, what the industry is expecting, and how Autodesk is aligning its education programs to ensure the job readiness for our graduates. I mean, when they complete the graduations, at least they should have certain skill sets which will really make them outstand in comparison to the complete education community. I mean, if you imbibe or if you adopt to certain technologies, then you are certainly outstanding yourself in comparison to your other peers as well. So here, if you look at the five different pillars, we are focusing on for design for manufacturing. I mean, we are no more a design company. I mean, Autodesk is mission and vision is basically to design and make. So the make part is being really focused more, so that along with your design, you also balance the manufacturability and understand how the manufacturability aspects are being considered, so that you understand both the concept, the design as well as make aspect of it. And moving ahead, solving problems on a silos is nowhere a case now. I mean, that's not called for the industry now. I mean, you need to adopt the latest technologies like AI workflows into your designs and into your workflows, using the latest technologies like generative design. How the other presenter mentioned about the usage of generative design, Abhi mentioning about his generative design in their workflow. That's what you have to adopt the AI part of it, usually machine learning concepts into your work, and make your work more productive. And we always think that when we say that the technologies are more focused for the manufacturing industry, but that's not the case. If you look at Abhi's presentation also, he mentioned about the PCB design. I mean, the best part of Autodesk technology is PCB design is a part of Fusion 360 as well. I mean, that what we indicate is the system engineering is not a nice to have, it is a requirement to have now, because with the incorporation of electronics instrumentation, you need to solve bigger problems, the real world problems, by through collaborating with these technologies as well. And again, here I would like to highlight, I mentioned twice about the career path. Yes, many of us have to make our personalized learning path as well, because all of us has get the degree. I mean, even most of the industry sectors, I mean, definitely first ask for the degrees. We are ready with the degrees, but what different qualities that we have along with our academic degrees? That's where you have to personalize yourself. That's where you have to build your career path. That's where you have to build your profile and make yourself readiness with different kinds of programs, like different kinds of certifications. For example, if you look at Autodesk education program, I would say if somebody have already approached the Autodesk Ambassador Hub, if you go to the Autodesk Ambassador Hub program, you will understand how you can perfectly build your profile. I mean, by the time, if you start at your second year level itself, by the time you complete your education, you will be having so many badges under your banner, under your hat, as well as you'll be talking to many more industrialists as well as expertise in the community, so that they brainstorm, they give you much more ideas for you to be innovative, and that's where you build. And every badge, if you have to earn, you have to produce something, so you have to work for that, you have to present, you have to do designs and all those things. So that way you're continuously in touch with the technology, and by the time you come out of the degree, you're slightly different in comparison to the people who are not adopting the latest technologies. And the best part is products like Fusion 360 are collaborative. I mean, it's a cloud-based tool, so you need to be collaborative. Gone are the days like we have seen the traditional how design used to work. We used to have a design department, we used to have a manufacturing department, so there's no connection. Our design department would do a design, the product will go to the market, then they will work on the newer version, the new version will come, they will go to the market. So that picture is gone now. I'll tell you how the unique or single line path is nowhere a picture that you have to be working in a platform, you have to be working in a collaborative. Then technologies like Fusion 360 will help you to collaborate and work remotely from any part of the world. So that's, and data being at the center and you accessing data anywhere from any device is the biggest move, I would say. So these are the norms and the requirements by the industry 4.0 required. So you align yourself, your career path towards these goals, then definitely I see that you'll find a better opportunity in the market. All these talk that I'm converging is to these three pillars in terms of design, make, and use. And the design, make, and use is converging. I mean, the gap between the design and make is really getting closer and closer because you need to understand both the concepts, because once you design, you need to also make sure that it can be made and the product can go to the market. And the best part is, with the use coming in, when I meant to use is like the sensors coming in, the predictive maintenance, the preliminary data collection is what is the major thing that can go back to the designers and they remodify their designs and get a better product to the market. So these three pillars are getting very converged, getting closer and closer. When they get more closure, when the line disappear among all these three, you'll see different kinds of products, different kinds of innovation things coming into the market. So just a quick touch on, many of you might be knowing what Fusion is all about. It's a cloud-based tool. It's a CAD CAM CAE tool, complete one tool. We will not definitely say tool. It is a platform, I would say. It's a platform where you work from your conceptual design till fabrication. So you can see different environments. So you don't have to hop from one machine to the another machine. So that's what is the need of the hour. So at an education level, at that level, you don't have to install multiple machines on your multiple softwares on your machine. One software will definitely help you to pass through all the segmental areas, all the environments that you intend to work, be it simulation, be it animation, be it electronics, everything is under one platform. So that's why we call it as not a product. We are Autodesk as looking at an innovative platform. So this would be my last slides to conclude. What is that innovative platform is all about? I mean, if you look at, if you consider, as we talked about, it is data being at the center. I mean, data in the sense here, data could be anything. It could be engineering data, it could be attribute data, whatever you call it as. So let's consider an engineering data. If this is the design that I really intend to make it, so how do I approach with respect to my design tool? So you can use technologies like Fusion 360, which will encompass you to not only work in terms of your mechanical design, you can also do the simulation part of it, you can also do the electronics part of it in one tool. I mean, that's the part of, so you could definitely work with your digital data to make it as a design aspect. Then there is a seamless integration between the design and makes. That's what I said, the line between the design and make is getting converged. It is working closer and closer, so you can seamlessly transition your design data to the make and use our CAM capabilities from Fusion to make of it. And the best part is with Fusion Connect, you can use easily with the sensors attached to your devices or the products that are going into the market. The data is being fed back to the design, the data is being fed back to the make, and you can really remodify your designs so that a product, the next version of the product comes very fast to the market. And not only that, you can extend your boundaries from Fusion to extended products like NetFab, where if you really want to do your optimization part of it, then you can definitely use products like NetFab, and then you can use our advanced manufacturing products like Power Mill, Power Cam, Power Inspect kind of a things. And then finally, you can use our Fusion Connect as well, I mean, with sensor data and everything. So this is what industries were asking us, like, how can we be part of it? I mean, how can we participate in this change of future of making? I mean, that's where we say that if you just go on adding products to your thing, then that's not the case. But you should think from a product innovative perspective. So that's where we call it as a product innovation platform, where everything converges into one platform and you are seamlessly working through all the areas of design, make, and use. So with that, I just want to conclude with this single slide. I mean, for the education community, our motto is to definitely inspire the institutes, faculties, educators, and the student community, and engage them with the latest technologies, make them available with the tools that are available, developed by the Autodesk thing, and prepare them and make them ready, apart from their academic certificate, make them ready with different career profiles, so that industry acquires them easily. I mean, with a differentiator of the technology. With that, I think I thank Varun to giving me an opportunity to talk on this forum, and I thank the participants to patiently listening to us. I know there could be some repetition here, but I'm happy to take questions if there are any. Thank you, Varun.
Thank you so much, Anand. We are a little bit over time, but still, I really appreciate you taking time and giving the insights about what we are doing in the education market. So, having said that, guys, this is not the end. Next, we are doing these webinar series. That means every Tuesday we'll be live at 3 p.m. So next webinar is going to be Furniture Design in Perspective. That's AIM102. And in this webinar, Prashant Sriram will be joining us. He's an industrial designer at Morph Design. He's going to take you through his design journey from the idea to realization of furniture and accessories. Join in to watch him about his creative process and the role of Fusion 360 in his workflow. We'll also have Mickey Wakefield with us that day. He'll be joining in from Germany. He'll be showcasing what some European companies are doing in furniture industry. Trust me, this is going to be one of the good sessions in the AIM webinar series. Once again, I thank all of you to join today's session, and thank you, Abhit and Anand, for taking time and giving this wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Varun. Thank you, Abhit.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you, Varun.